In this chapter, we'll start building our main surface bodies. If you've been following along, use the file you already have, or if you'd like to open the file I've already prepared, you can go into your sample file section, chapter 4, and you can open Walkie-talkie Start. So in this file, we have our closed curve that represents our main body outline, and we have our 4 cross-section curves, and we're going to use these to create our main body face. And as fairly typical in Rhino or most 3D applications, we're going to actually overbuild our surface and then trim it back. You do this to make building surfaces much easier, and what I mean by that is it's much easier to build a surface with some shape through it going across a straight line and then coming back and trimming out this complex shape than it would be to draw cross-section curves through the shape and have that shape and these cross-section curves all build a form that is satisfactory. Not to say you can't do it. It's a little easier to do it this way. So as I said, we have our 4 cross-section curves, and in this instance, you may be used to kind of building things with 2 rail sweeps, whereas we would draw a line here on the endpoints, another end line here, and we'd have a line here, and a line here, and we would just sweep those sections across that rail. In this particular instance, we're not going to do that. We undo those. And the reason we don't need to do that is we're just sweeping these in a straight line. We're not worried about following any kind of a curve, so we don't really need to worry about doing that. So instead, we'll use a command called the Loft command. And the Loft command can be found under our Surface Tools, select Loft, or if you're using the toolbar, it's this icon here. Exactly the same command, just different ways to locate them. And it's going to ask me to select curves to loft. And you want to select your curves in order, and you want to try and select them on the same side of the curve as the first curve that you pick. So I wouldn't want to pick this curve over here, because what you may find is the surface will come up to here just fine, and then it'll try and flip over to this side as it goes to this next section. So I always want to pick, in this particular case, on the right side of the curve, since that's where I picked my first curve over here. Once I have them all selected, I can press Enter. And I have a few different options, but in this particular case, we're just going to stay with all the stock options. We just want to do a normal loft. We're not going to try and close this. We don't want it to wrap back around on itself. And we don't need to simplify any of these. We can just leave everything exactly the way it is. And if we look through here, you can see that we have a surface. We turn off my underlay section. So we have a surface that has a slight curve to it. And then it's nice and flat by the time it gets to the ends. And you can tell we have a curve because we can see the curves of our outline right at the edges here where it comes back all the way. But through this center section, you can see you don't notice those curves. So that lets you know that that surface is pulled away from the original curves that we drew. And that's all there is to creating that front plane. In the next lesson, we'll go ahead and trim up our surfaces.